Hey there guys, this is Mr. Herbst here, and today my focus is going to be on the muscular system. Now there are, several functions to the muscular system. The major one, or the most important one, is that it helps to put our body in motion. And now when you think of motion, you're probably thinking, running from A to B, going from place A to place B. But actually, if you think about it like this, muscles also allow our bodies to move food through the digestive tract. They also allow our heart to pump blood all throughout our body. And also, this is not so much a function, but our interesting fact is that about 40% of all of your body mass comes from muscles, or 40% of your body's weight comes from muscles. I'm going to talk for a second here about what muscles are made out of. There are two major types of proteins that make up of muscles. The first kind is called myosin. The other kind is called actin. Myosin is thick and actin is thin. Now, what do I actually mean by that? Well, if you go ahead and take a look over here at this diagram on the right, this here is a bone. This right here is a tendon in white. Over here is a bundle of muscular tissue. That bundle of muscular tissue is made up of smaller individual units called myofibrils. And each one of those myofibrils is made up of myofilaments. Now, you may be wondering why such complicated words. It's really not all that bad. But if you take a look, our root words here, again, myo means muscle. And so myofilaments or muscle filaments are composed of individual units of myosin and actin. Here, right down here, is a cross section. If I was to take this and cut it in half and take a cross section of it, right here is the actin. You can see that it's kind of small, and the myosin is sort of thick and big. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick run through on muscle contraction. Basically, a muscle contracts when the thin or the actin filaments slide over the myosin filaments, and that requires energy in the form of ATP. Remember, adenosine triphosphate is sort of the energy of our bodies, and that is controlled by the muscular system. It actually is a little bit more complicated. Let me explain. So, when a nerve or a neuron stimulates a muscle, it's going to stimulate a release of calcium into that muscle. That release of calcium is going to make the actin, or the red part right here, sort of change shape. When it changes shape, it allows the myosin, which is right here, to bind to the actin. When the myosin binds to the actin, ATP is needed, and it will allow for the two structures right here to move closer together. These two structures, which are here in purple, are called Z discs. And when the myosin binds to the actin, it shortens the distance between those two Z discs, and the muscle contracts. Now that right there is how muscle contracts in a nutshell. It actually is a lot more complicated than that. And we'll also focus on this again in class. We're going to go ahead in here and talk about muscles and bones in general. There are these things called tendons. Tendons connect or join skeletal muscle to the bones. You may have heard of, at one time, the Achilles tendon. That is on the back of your leg, connects your heel bone all the way to your calf muscle. If this gets injured or severed or cut off, it's actually probably the worst injury to the muscular system a person can have. Tendons are sort of like rubber bands. And if this tendon gets cut right here, that tendon is going to shoot up into the calf of that person, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of surgeries to reconnect the Achilles tendon back down to the heel bone, or the calcaneus bone right there. So tendons connect bone to muscle. An important thing about muscles is that they work in opposing pairs. As one contracts, the other relaxes. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that on my own arm here, right here. Here's my bicep right here on my upper arm. When this contracts, it forces my forearm up. And now when this relaxes and my tricep contracts, it moves my muscle back down. Muscles never have the ability to push. They only have the ability to pull. So as this muscle shortens, or as the muscle contracts here, it pulls up on my forearm. And then as this muscle here contracts, it pulls down on my forearm. This muscle never pushes, it only has the ability to pull. There are three major types of muscle tissue we're going to talk about in this unit. The first type is skeletal muscle. That should be pretty obvious as to what that type of muscle does, or muscle tissue does. It moves our skeleton. It is attached to bone, and it is under voluntary control. That means we can control skeletal muscle. I'm doing it right now. The thing about skeletal muscle is that you see over here all of these little sort of darker looking areas. This right here is one single cell, and actually it contains many nuclei. Each one of those areas, those darker areas, is a nuclei. Skeletal muscle has lots of nuclei, and I don't know if you can actually see this on your end. It might be kind of hard unless you have a high definition TV, but there are these little stripes right in here. They're called striations, and each one of those striations is an individual sarcomere, or an individual unit that allows that muscle to contract. Each one of those, this is what helps to classify skeletal muscle as being skeletal muscle. Lots of nuclei and the striations. The next type of muscle tissue is called smooth muscle. It is under involuntary control. You have no control over it, and it's found primarily in the digestive system and also found in blood vessels. Your veins and your arteries will contract and dilate based on how much blood we need to go here and there. Also, when you swallow something, it doesn't just fall down. If you ever want to prove that correct, why don't you try drinking a glass of water upside down? The water has to actually be pushed down into the stomach. In fact, it actually takes about 4 or 5 seconds for something as simple as water to go from your mouth to your stomach. There are muscular contractions that squeeze down food and water in our digestive system. That is controlled by smooth muscle. Also, your bladder is controlled by smooth muscle. And then the last type of muscle tissue we're going to focus on is cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle, use your root words there, guys. Cardiac is heart. So cardiac muscle is muscle found in the heart. It's only found in the heart. Once again, it's under involuntary control. We have, you can't think, let's make my heart beat now. It doesn't work that way. Your heart will beat all of the time. In fact, your heart pretty much never ever gets tired. If it gets tired, you die. So your muscle works the cardiac muscle works all the time. It's probably the hardest working muscle in your entire body. One of the major differences between cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle is that there is one nuclei per cell. Anyway, here, guys, that's going to go ahead and conclude the muscular system. Make sure you can complete the Google form below. This is Mr. Herbst. I'm signing off, folks. You all have a nice day.